All right, so thank you so much for joining us today. For those of us that are here, well, I have a whole lot of people also joining. So we're live on Facebook and on Zoom. And today is the launch of the Waterman, Echezonachukwu second collection of poems. It's an amazing collection that we all need to have in our libraries. So I wish to start today by first of all appreciating everyone and those that have been really involved in the production of the Waterman. We especially wish to appreciate the amazing McNally Robinson booksellers here in Winnipeg. They've taken it so seriously, especially in the distribution of the Waterman. Especially John Hughes and Karen, the members of the staff of McNally, and also Page Bookstore in Nigeria, helping us with the pre-orders and also the distribution. We wish a few of our media guys like Praxis Magazine, Black Boy Review, and Book O'Clock. I guess we have Uchenna here with us, who is HA's personal publicist as well. So before I go ahead, I would like to introduce Jide Aluka, who is the co-founder of Griots Lounge, and he's the team lead in Nigeria. All right, so he's going to actually say something as we start today, because although this is a global launch, and we know what we're going through in Nigeria currently, it's a sad situation, and we will definitely acknowledge the fact that this is our generation and we are protesting to make things right for the first time. All right, so we're having a book launch, but we're also free to express ourselves over situation, over the things going on in Nigeria. All right, so Jide, I would like you to take it off from there and let us have a little bit like information on what's going on then before we go ahead. Your mic, I think you're, okay, let me unmute you. Your mic is, yeah.
Okay, are we there now?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, just started, and good evening, everyone. I'm happy we are here now, and just to go straight to what is happening in Nigeria, which is very wonderful. I mean, the whole country is facing what has not been seen for a very long time, or possibly never. People are out in the streets protesting police brutality, and that is just like a lead to everything that is not going right in our country. And it's a wonderful thing that we are able to see this day come, because we've been for over the years considered one of those do nothing generation. I mean, at some point, we remember the president called us lazy. It's not a good thing, but what we must enjoy about what is happening is that people are able to react to injustice. And it is very peaceful across the country. It is well coordinated. The demands are clear and mature enough. So we are hoping and expecting that things don't get out of hand. And individually and collectively, I think, I believe Griots Lounge stands with the demonstrations. And we hope that this is the beginning of a new country, a new society, whereby people have the opportunity and the platform to, vent their displeasures and gets reasonable results, in that process. So we look forward to what is happening in the next few days and to a new country going forward. So welcome to every one of us, and we are hoping that it's also going to be a welcome to a new Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much. And also, we have also agreed to have like 1 minute silence in honor of those that have been taken out by the SARS and those that have had to fall victims to the ongoing protest. So we'll just have like a minute silence then before we go on with the launch. and may the souls of the departed find eternal rest. Amen. All right, so I'll just kickstart by introducing our host today. She is no other person but Oyindamola Alaka. All right, she's also very interesting and never dulling. So we're going to have a very fun day. Oyindamola Alaka is a publishing professional based in Winnipeg here in Manitoba. She is also the co-founder of NOAA Professionals, and their focus is connecting, creating, and cultivating opportunities for Black professionals. So she's so much involved in the Black community here in Canada, here in Winnipeg and Canada at large. Oyinda is also an MC, amazingly growing in her recent love for that. And we always love to tell her that she can handle everything, and I'm pretty sure she's going to do that today. If you want to find Oyinda on Twitter, her handle is Oyindamola Alaka, at Oyindamola Alaka, if I'm right. So I'll just hand over everything today to her, and then she will introduce Eche and Waterman, and then we go on from there. Thank you so much, Oyinda. So I may have to like go mute for quite some time. All right, so if you have a question, you can put it on the chat, all right? And then when it gets to the time for questions, then we'll sort that out, all right? Thank you so much, Oyinda. Please take it.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction, Bibi. It is an honor to be here with everyone and to host this launch. This is my first time ever hosting a book launch, so bear with me if I make some errors, but I'm very, very excited to be here today, and it's such an honor to be hosting for Eche. I'd also like to mention that this is Griots Lounge's first Canadian book, so it's a really exciting moment for them, and I hope everyone's as excited as I am, and I hope everyone remembers to buy Waterman, because that's the only reason why we're here today. Okay, I'm going to start off by introducing the one and only Eche. Echezonachukwu Nduka, is a poet and a pianist. He's the author of 2 poetry collections, Chrysanthemums for Wide-Eyed Ghosts by Griots Lounge 2018 and Waterman by Griots Lounge 2020. He holds a degree in music from both the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and Kingston University, London, UK. In 2016, he was awarded the Korean Nigeria Poetry Prize on World Poetry Day. Hailed by Guardian Life magazine as artist extraordinaire, Nduka's literary works have been published in the India Police Review, Transition Bombay Review, Kissing Dynamite, Maple Tree Literary Supplement, 2035 Africa, an anthology of contemporary poetry, Volume 2, 1,000 Voices Rising, an anthology of contemporary African poetry, amongst others. Eche, as it fondly goes by, is a specialist in piano music by African composers. Nduka has performed at the National Opera Center in New York, Gateway Playhouse, New Jersey, IMI Concert, St. Louis, Missouri, as well as numerous other venues. His work has been featured on BBC Newsday, Radio France International, Classical Journey, episode 134, and Radio Nacional Clásica de Argentina. So please join me in welcoming Echezonachukwu Nduka.
Thank you very much, Oyin. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Eche, wow, how does it feel to be launching your book today?
It's a great pleasure to be launching my book today. But of course, I cannot escape that, that mixed feelings of, both excitement and a little bit of concern, huge concern for what is going on, in my home country, in Nigeria, So I'm giddy with excitement, but of course, against the backdrop of what's going on in Nigeria, so it's kind of a, mixed feeling. Somehow I wish I could, just be right there in Nigeria to be part of what's going on in real time and not, just protesting online, even though online protest is very effective in its own way. Yeah, but of course I feel very, very, elated and quite happy to be launching my second poetry collection today. And of course, it's special in its own way because, as you rightly mentioned, it is the first publication by Griots Lounge Publishing Canada in North America. So that's quite historical in a sense. So, and I'm very happy about that. And of course, I'm eternally grateful to my publishers and publicists and all those working with me to promote this work.
Awesome, that's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you before we commence with today's programming. What role do you think poetry has to play with the current movement in Nigeria?
Oh, a lot. Poetry has been a very effective vehicle for activism in a way that has become part of the culture. It's a cultural thing, and not just for what is going on, but in many ways, poetry has been that vehicle for awakening or reawakening people. We have protest poems, both in the written form on page and on stage, performance, poetry, and then most of the writing in that regard always talks about politics and tries to turn people's attention to what's going on in the country. So it's very important, and of course for the movement in Nigeria now, poetry in its own way has played and is playing a vital role, because of course there are poets, Nigerian poets and poets from other parts of the world who have written and are writing to document what has been going on the continent and in Nigeria with regards to police brutality, injustice, oppression, corruption, and other things in that regard. So poetry is very important, both for the moment and for the future.
Very, very important answers there. Okay, awesome. Before we commence, we would like to invite you to read some pieces from your book.
Mm-hmm.
And which pieces would you be reading for us today?
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to state that my book, Waterman, here's the book, is in 3 parts. So I'm going to be reading for a start 3 poems, one from each part of the collection. So I'll read one poem from part 1, I'll read another one from part 2, and then another one from part 3 for a start. So the first one I'll be reading is Boardwalk. Boardwalk is on page 26. Page 26, Boardwalk. Notice the gait of tourists on a summer noon. Catwalks on wood are for onlookers who, like the ocean, rises and ebbs for sanity. A young couple across the casino calls out to their daughter, Lisa, whose dance steps betray the beat of the passing music. Love-struck partners kiss to the silence of passers-by. No, the one who kneels to propose draws cheers and applause. Phone cameras record the new phase as viral online content. Near the main pathway to the beach, a gray-bearded man sits alone, cross-legged, eyes fixed on the feet of strangers, as if he's keeping inventory of shoes and sizes. If shoes could talk about those who wear them, the man would have his whole body full of stories, so that at dusk, when the beach reclaims her song and stores close in honor of the arriving moon, he would have gained more weight just by sitting at the boardwalk. So that's from part 1. Now I'll read a poem titled Arabesque. Arabesque is the first poem that opens the second part of the collection. And it's on page 30. Page 30, Arabesque. Clothed in ragged ponchos and shawls, worn to keep cold's umbrage at bay, there's often a song, a whistle even, for strands of his dreadlocked hair embracing what is left of his tormented soul. All hours of the night find him covered under makeshift tents in abandoned street corners, awake with rodents and street lamps. They say he is mad, yet he keeps watch over his art. Daytime bustling meets him splashing colors on canvas, making portraits that adorn no galleries, stringing crowds together with stories as threads of spell. Characters on graffiti walls blink to mark his footfalls. They smell the scent of genius. Shakespeare of the broken neighborhood, he is both playwright and actor at the count of one, standing on one leg, arms spread out like wings at the sight of cameras set to shoot. The open street is a stage, perfect with props for full effects. They say he is mad, yet he keeps watch over his art. Then comes a preacher with news for the soul artist, so loved and loathed. If you believe, proclaims the preacher, you will be saved. The artist, sober in his resolve, raises both hands and swears an oath to save his art alone. Then I'll read the third one from the third part of the collection, and it's titled Crematorium. It's on page 78. Page 78, Crematorium. There's a fire outbreak at the crematorium and the cadavers are not in doubt. It is not an answered prayer either. Alarms have sung themselves hoarse and roadblocks make a bad show of reenacting boundaries. These days, they put everyone in jail who knows what ash belongs to whom. What the boogeyman said during re-election campaigns was a different kind of ash. Chains and language in breathless combat. Some will rub it on their foreheads and wipe it clean in straight locations where lime is served in measured cups. Some will mix theirs with tears and drink in haste. Others will blow theirs away and rename the boogeyman. There will always be ashes in unlabeled urns, begging to be burnt further. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that reading. Those three readings. Thank you so much. Speaking of themes from the book, from reading the book, I felt like you took us to the walk of life. It sounded like this person, the speaker in the writings, was on the dying bed and was reflecting on child. So in the first part, themes of childlike, curiosity, and then in the second part is almost like an awakening and kind of like adulthood, and then the third part is reflecting on kind of like old age, and it seems like the person is reflecting, analyzing, and you kind of talk about philosophy of life and different things like that. So I was wondering if you wanted to expand on those themes.
Yes, the collection, the poems in the collection deal with an array of themes, but of course, what brings them together in a sense, or what is most common in them, is the musical quality of each of the poems. That is not just on themes of music, but the musicality of the poems themselves. First of all, the themes I chose to deal with were mostly on the human aspect, human condition in every way. The human condition, both as a child, as a grown person, human relationships, dealing with other people, the sacred, I looked at the sacred, religion, then politics, and of course music on its own as a theme. Which has become more like a rudimental part of my writing, my foundation on which most of my writing are built on. In other words, I tend to look at life and most of my writing through the lens of music, like using music to look at what is going on in the world. And of course, for some time, I mean, when I was writing, there were issues, there were things going on in the news, especially about abuse, in the church, you know, people were being asked to, you know, to call some numbers or report and claim, you know, that they've been abused by priests or things like that, you know, was going on for a while. And some of the poems in the collection were a sort of, you know, response to that. And like I mentioned earlier, that poetry plays a role in documenting history, you know, in talking about what you know, what's happening at the moment, you know, and also looking at the future. So yeah, the poems in the collection deal with a, you know, an array of themes, and the arrangement is that from one it flows, you know, smoothly into the next. So since it has three segments, if you like, I tend to look at it as maybe a sonata or a symphony in movement, like in composition, where you have the fast, then the slow and the fast. I'm looking at the whole collection as one very large composition of music dealing with a lot of themes, you know, basically on the human condition.
So expanding on the first, in the first part, on page 42,
yeah,
the mention of the fisherman's litany, I noticed themes that reminded me of the crisis that we have in Nigeria when it came to environmental crisis with Shell.
Yes.
And I was wondering if that was part of what inspired that piece.
Yes. For a long time, I've been quite interested in environment, you know, what's going on in the environment. Some of my early poems addressed environment. But this, the poem itself, The Fisherman's Litany, is actually just based on that environmental condition of the Niger Delta, what is going on there. That is what the poem addresses solely. So I'm like, the speaker of the poem looks at the condition from the perspective of a native, of, you know, a fisherman, because most of the people who are from that place, you know, they do the fishing and all of that. But it's quite unfortunate that because of, you know, what has been going on in that environment for a very long time, that has been a problem, because, you know, the water has been polluted. You have oil spillage, you have, you know, pollution, you know, and then you have, you know, the fishes die, you know, a lot of things going on. And then, of course, you know, it's going to affect the people of the place very adversely, you know. So that deals with that condition in the Niger Delta. And it's part of the, you know, the political part of poetry, like trying to address some of these things. And it's been on, you know, for a long time. And there are other poets who have written, you know, a large amount of work just on that alone. So, but this poem particularly just deals with that, tries to look at the condition from the perspective of a fisherman, to see, look at what is going on here, look at what is going on, we need something to be done, you know. So that is what it is basically.
Awesome, thank you. And as you've raised points, yes, the Niger Delta crisis has been ongoing, and it's really important that people understand that stories and know that about what's happening, and it's important that we're raising more awareness about what's happening in Niger Delta.
Yes.
I'd like to move on to page 49, The Dream I Thought I Had. While I was reading that piece, it made me reflect on the Biafran War, and I was wondering if that was part of what inspired that piece. I don't know too much about the Biafran War, but from what I do know, I remember my friend, Dr. Chibo, was telling me about how people's bodies were lying over the place, and kind of how you talked about the faceless bodies lying in a field of burnt grass. And this piece just made me reflect on that.
Yes, yeah, you're right. I think that was quite clear. You know, the thing about poetry is that for a long time, a lot of readers, even poets themselves, writers and literary people, literary entities have been talking about, the obscurity of poetry. You know, poetry doesn't have a wide readership because it's like you guys, the poets, you always, you know, you're too obscure. You speak in, you know, codes, and you try to paint all this imagery like it's not, the message is not readily available, accessible to the reader or to the average reader, right? But part of what I'm doing is to try to write it, to make it, to break it down in a way that the reader will have an idea, like you have, you know, an image, a mental picture that is quite vivid, quite clear. You know, that clarity is important, that, you know, people understand what is going on. So you're right, that poem deals with the Biafran. For me, it was more like a genocide, you know, the history. We may not have to go into all of that now, but what the poem tries to do is I tried to do a reversal of that. So it started the dream I thought I had. So because of the casualties, you know, the dead bodies scattered all over the place, all the children that died from Kwashiorkor, those that bullets, you know, cut down, those that were killed from, you know, air raids and all of that. So I tried to say, okay, now there are bodies all over the place. Maybe the bodies start coming back alive, and all the families that lost their ones start receiving them, you know, back and things. It's more like a reversal, like trying to, you know how you see a movie, right? You know, it reminds me of this, and then you try to make a rewind to take everything back to the beginning. You know, so that is what the poem actually does. Also, if I mean, it's true that it's a reversal, but it's also about that Biafran, you know, the war. You know, it's historical in a sense, and this is not the first time I'm dealing with that theme, because in my first book, one of the first poems that opens the collection, Chrysanthemums for White-Eyed Ghost, I did talk about the title Inside the Old Room made, you know, some reference, you know, to that war as well. So I see that coming back in a way. But what is most for me, what is most important in this particular poem is the idea of reversal, to try to change it. And unfortunately, for some reason, the Nigerian government has not shown that it's dedicated to dealing with the issue, with the rudimental things. I mean, the key factors that actually led to the war, that needed to, it's almost like it's going to be ignored, you know, like, let's not talk about it, let's ignore it, like it's just going to go away like that. It's not going to go away, you know. And then you have people agitating, and then you have the older generation saying, oh no, you guys weren't even born when the war was fought, so why are you talking about it now, like it should die away, like it was not people's uncles and fathers and grandfathers that were killed. And I mean, this is history. You can't, it's an idea, you can't just kill it. It's not something you bring and kill and then it dies. That's not how it happens. It's going to keep, you know, going on and on and on. And you need to sometimes, you know, engage history, read some of the stories, especially the Asaba massacre, some of the things that happened. I mean, it's quite, it's so sad. So the government needs actually to engage, you know, to address that, because it's like, oh, let's leave this. And what is even most unfortunate is that the youth, people now who are trying to call attention to that, or to say, oh, we don't like the way things are going on in this country, we want to have our own country. The government is not asking them to come, let's sit down and talk. Rather, troops, army, you know, soldiers are sent to go and kill them and shoot them and bully them. That's not the way, you know, to function in a supposed democracy. You know, so and the irony is that the same government they negotiate with terrorists, you know, and do what they call rehabilitation for terrorists. But those who are and then bring them back into the society, and these are part of the problems. And then those who are calling for something genuine, who are asking to be heard, you know, are tagged, you know, terrorists, and then proscribed. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. So I think poetry, you know, is effective, like we mentioned earlier, in not only calling attention to some of these things, but documenting history, you know, for the present and also for the future.
Thank you for those very important points. And yes, I would also like to acknowledge that, yes, the Nigerian government does need to do more to acknowledge the genocide, and it was definitely a genocide. I would like to move to page 68. He bought his debt on credit. And I was wondering, did the speaker commit suicide, or was the speaker involved in an accident?
Okay, what happened? I think, you know, the morning I wrote that poem, it's actually, it's a very sad thing. So this is what happens, you know, in most of the writing, poetry comes from a place of observation, and also talking about what is going on, maybe in real time, or a response to an actual event, right? So that's not, that poem is actually a true life story. It's not, you know, it's not fiction. So what happened was, the person that the speaker refers to in the poem died of drug overdose, right? He died of drug overdose, and the drug he bought, that he took, he was owing money for that. He hadn't even paid for the drug he got that killed him. So when we were on our way, to attend an event, and then we got the call that, oh, this had happened. So we had to turn immediately and to head back to the place. So we found out that, you had the cops, the policemen and people were coming, the ambulance, all of that were going on. And then one of the stories was that, oh, the police was calling someone to come, the guy that he owed money, the person that sold whatever to him, and when he came, I think he was arrested because they found some text messages or things. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's autobiography. Life. It's like non-fiction, something that happened that was documented, as a poem. So the body's dead on credit was that he got this stuff that killed him, and he hasn't even paid the money. So he's gone and he's owing money, and for how much? I think it was for $5 or something. So, yeah.
Speaking of dying and mental health, I noticed a theme in the book that was carried through all three parts. It seemed like every part, the speaker always had a coping mechanism. So part of the coping mechanisms I noticed were playing the piano. It seemed like drinking wine was another coping mechanism. People watching and people analyzing was another coping mechanism. And it also seemed like the speaker carried this persona of, I'm perfect because I've gone through all these life experiences and therefore I can tell you and correct you, or my way of life is better than your way of life. So do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I think there were different speakers at some point. I think what is basic is that the speakers, present life as they see them, lived experiences, just shared lived experiences. Most of them didn't take the stand of, having, that know-it-all persona, but more like to share experiences about life and to share observations. And most of the voices are quite introspective in the sense that they question certain things about life, question themselves, trying to see life from their own perspective. That many things that happen, people try to find many ways to get on, get ahead, in spite of every other thing that's keeping them down. Then you have the music, like you rightly mentioned, people listen to a lot of music, maybe to encourage them or to get through some phase of life that is quite difficult. And then there is the wine, for some other reason, and then several other ways. Then of course there is the spiritual part of it, maybe the sacred, part of it that people tend to, to run to for soccer. And so I think, yes, what those speakers try to present are real life experiences. That was why I mentioned earlier when we're starting out that most of the poems are based on the human condition. But of course, it cuts across, several themes. For the mental illness, over the years, people have tried to find ways to, to deal with that, and for some reason, in many places, it's still been stigmatized. Some people do not understand that it is real and it has to be taken seriously, and that it is in fact not as a result of some sort of spiritual deficiency. That once this person subscribes to a certain religion and then everything. No, it's illness, it's mental illness, just like having illness that has to be taken care of medically. So. Yeah, so the speakers just try to show, more like just to show, look at what is going on. And then in that way, the readers or whoever is engaging these works can make of it whatever they might. Because to be honest, there is no single way of looking at a work of art or poetry. So we can have conversations around some of the poems, or even I as the author can discuss a poem, and then a reader might see something, completely different from even what I intended in the first place. So that is where subjectivity comes in, So yeah, but this is what I think, about the speakers and the themes and how they connect.
Excuse me. Thank you so much. I would like to take questions from the audience. If anyone has a question, please use the thumbs up button. Reaction, it should be on the 3 dots. If you click participants, and you can use the thumbs up option to ask questions. So you can send your questions directly to BB or to me. And if anyone has any question, whether it be on Facebook or whether it be on Zoom, please ask away. While we wait for people to gather their questions and their thoughts, you mentioned when we started that part of your inspiration for the book was a lot of abuse that was happening in the church and people coming up, being asked to come up and share their story of abuse in the church. And when I was reading Middle-Aged Drunk at the Confessional, I wondered if the lines "knows that soiled hands concentrate bread" referenced some form of assault.
Yeah, I think, yes, in a sense, not really assault, but the guilt, the knowledge that, that the priest or whoever it is that is functioning in that capacity is guilty of some sort of, sin, or is imperfect. I think that underlines the imperfection of humanity. That even those who serve, the spiritual leaders or who are in the religious field, they are not saints. They're not supposedly, all that 100% righteous. They have their own baggages, of imperfections. So that is just one aspect of it. Of course, that poem is written from the perspective of someone who was drunk, who went to the confessional. You understand? So you will feel that freedom in the poem to just say things out of that. Like the speaker was criticizing even a lot of things. It wasn't even just only that part of the issues, that we're dealing with in the society at the time, but also other doubts that the person might have about religion. So it's just the drunk trying to call attention to what was going on, right? So, and also I think that that's also reflected in the poem at the baptismal font. At the baptismal font, there are images of the baptism, the water, the priest, and all of that. It still points in that same direction, dealing with all of that. So, well, I'll ask our participants and readers to, get this book, get the collection, and you get to read all of these poems.
Thank you. I think author has a question.
Okay.
Hi, Eche.
Oh, hi, Dr. Arthur. It's great to see you.
It's actually very good to see you. First, I want to congratulate you on this feat. It's very inspiring, and I'm glad.
Thank you so much.
That you finally managed to pull this out, and that we are launching it in Canada while you are across the other part, where you guys are dealing with the madness of the world, the headquarters of the madness. So thanks for this. It's been fascinating reading some of the poems. I haven't been able to finish the whole book because I got it just a few days ago. Because I'm hoping that we will have something like this going forward much more.
Okay.
So the question I have, which you've touched on throughout, is more to do with your music. You're a musician and you work with the very sophisticated kinds of musical instruments, the piano and the kinds of compositions that you do. And throughout today, you've talked about how your work deals with documenting, especially traumatic history, and the kinds of chaos happening across our shared histories and experiences in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And the few poems I read came out to me, quite musical, very melodious. And the ones you chose to read, the 3 poems you read, also sort of underline the musicality of your work and your art. And my question is, how how were you able to write beautiful music, very melodious works about terrible things, right? How can you sing melodiously about chaos? It's basically the kind of question I have, like, because it's something I struggle to do. It's difficult for someone like me to enjoy good music when the world is crazy. Right?
Yes,
But here I have a poem that combines these terrible experiences with beautiful melodies. How did you reconcile that in your art?
I think that the first of all, it borders on the approach, and my approach, to writing, how I approach writing to start with. I tend to look at writing as music, like I'm trying to write music or to play music, to perform music as a pianist, so that even when I'm trying to process trauma or trying to look at ugly experiences, I tend to look at them through the lens of music, so that it can give it some sort of resonance. So what happens is that, like I mentioned earlier, when I was writing the poems and putting them together as a collection, I was looking at the entire work as a complete, as music, as a composition, by itself. But apart from some of the poems in the collection that deals with music specifically, other themes that are not so great, so cool, something, talks about sadness and all those traumatic histories. I try to also make sure that they have this sense of musicality. So one of the approach I have is that sometimes when I write, I tend to read out to myself, because poetry, I believe that poetry is sonic. It's about more of sound, than just having it on page. So when I write and process those thoughts and the imagery that with all the metaphors and everything, I try to read it out to make sure that it goes like that I feel that sense of music, and I think that's where the musicality comes in. You can feel that rhythm, you can feel all of those sense like it's a song. So when I write, I read the poems aloud to hear it myself, to process it in terms of music. So that is one major approach I have. I write it and then I read it out. And of course, I think what is most important, like I already mentioned, is that I'm looking at all of this work as music in a sense. So it's like I'm trying to combine, both art forms. I'm a musician on one side, I'm also writing, but I like music to be in my writing, to reflect in my writing, so that it will reverberate, so that even when we read all those sort of histories that may be unpleasant, the musicality of the the poems, the works themselves, will make them resonate, to keep resounding like that. I hope I've been able to answer your question to an extent.
Definitely, you did, because
yes.
it's I mean, there are different kinds of music, right? There are songs
Yes.
we sing when people die,
Yes.
to deal with the pain of that loss. There are songs we sing when we want to motivate people to revolt and protest or do things. And there are songs we sing when we're happy and we want to enjoy
of course.
the bliss of life.
Or when we want to meditate, all of those things.
Yes. So it's how the poems that deal with these difficult tragic experiences come out at the same time as pleasurable when I'm reading them, right? So I read them and then I'm enjoying the music, but then the experiences are things I shouldn't enjoy. So at the same time, I'm trying to be very serious about these things, but then I'm enjoying the lines that I'm reading. So it's how the artist in this case is able to reconcile those two seemingly contradictory feelings to produce these poems that I was trying to get at. But you've answered my question with the idea that sometimes we need the sound to resound multiple times for us to process these kinds of experiences, because it can be very traumatic to encounter, and you need some form of musicality to deal with them.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
thanks
right.
a lot.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oyinda, before you go ahead, we'll go to William for a question, but before you go to William for a question, Professor Nduka Tiono tried to join us, but he couldn't. He doesn't know why. So he's asking if he can do like a video call through the phone and then send out a goodwill message. So I'll just quickly do that, then we can get back to you. All right. Just 1 minute. All right. If we're not able to get him, then we can just quickly go back to. All right. So we can quickly go back to anytime he calls, and I'll let you know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. William, can you please take yourself off mute?
All right. Good evening, everyone. I guess it's already noon at your end over there. H.A., nice work. Apparently, I've not seen the book. I've not read it, but I mean, with some of the insights we've seen, it's really impressive how, when I say we, I know, I mean, in the past, we've always had our own writers and poets, as it were. But maybe not in the numbers that we're seeing these days, people and pushing these things beyond the envelope, taking it beyond the scope it used to be before. And then also impressive is the fact that we're not letting this whole pandemic deter us from, making these things happen. I mean, the book launch, for instance, we used to be physical. Yeah, we could have all the streaming on the YouTube platforms and all the whatnot, but I mean, so I'm thinking about it in its own way. It's an advantage because you're cutting across a wider audience. Unprecedented, but I mean, we have to take advantage of the situation. So yeah, nice work. Keep it up. But I was going to ask a question. I mean, also to your team, your publishers, and all the other authors around. Nice. So my question is, the name Waterman. I don't know if in the process of introduction I got to hear how or why you thought about the name or what exactly it means to. If I hear the name and I go through the book, will I be able to connect or find what Waterman means? Basically. So that's my question.
Oh yes. Thank you very much for that question. That's a very important question. So Waterman is actually one of the poems in the collection. Waterman is one of the poems in the collection. So the title poem, that work, has become the main theme, like the title of the entire collection. And of course, that poem deals with, some sort of myth and, the human experience, in a certain way. But across, they read the collection, there are, several poems that have, that mention of water, maybe as just substance or maybe as imagery or something. Water plays a huge role, as one of the, connectors or, one of the strings that connects the poems. And in some of the poems, the mention of water, or they play different roles, in each of the poems in the collection. So I think, that beyond music, or in addition to music, water is also one of the things that connects, all the poems in the collection. So yeah, I chose to title it Waterman because I had conviction that, in a way, some of the things that the poems are trying to look at, water has a role to play. And of course, it is, if we're dealing with the human condition or humanity or a lot of things, you can't take you know, water out of it. And I'm not saying that all the poems that are dealing with, you know, what I'm writing about has to be named Waterman or something about water. But in this particular collection, water is significant, you know, in both the theme, the thematic engagement, and how, you know, we process the things going on in the collection. So yeah, your question is very important. But what I have to say is that there is a poem, you know, that is Waterman in the collection itself. And maybe that poem is like, you know, it's like when you have like a hit track, you know, you're making an album, right? And you have a track. But sometimes even when the artist may have that hit track, you'll find out that the listeners may even love a different song more than what the artist, you know, loves, you know, or chooses to call the album. So, but for me, I think Waterman is like an envelope, you know, that collects all of the things going on in the collection.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I can just make the call now. I think he's ready now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
1 minute, please. Okay, so Prof, we're here. So Eche is here. So I told them you wanted to say something. So please go ahead.
Hello, Prof.
Wherever you are.
Yeah.
This opportunity to express my very profound goodwill to all of you who are there, and especially our very talented author. I think you know, you've done a great and you continue to do great work. And although I couldn't quite participate in full, I thought to pass on my goodwill message and to wish you all the best. And then also,
thank you very much.
You know, I think these are the fruits of something great, or a lot of great things in the offing. And I want to wish you all the very best, you know, Vivi. And you know, we look forward to more exciting times after COVID. Perhaps we should think about launching some of these books at better time when we'll have some physical connection. All right, then, all the best. Bye, everyone. And then enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
All right, thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much.
All right, no problem.
Excuse me. So anyone have any questions, comments, or anything else to say? Now's your time. Well, while we wait for people to gather their thoughts, I have a question regarding the poem titled Lent. You talked about the impact of faith and religion throughout this, and there was a line that stood out to me. The line was, "Blessed are those who confess their sins, for they can afford to sin again." And so I was wondering, it sounded like me that you seem to like question the concept of religion and the ability to sin and sin again and just ask for forgiveness. So can you expand more on that?
The poem Lent.
Yes.
The
on
line
page 67.
Yeah, the line you ran. Okay, yeah, page 67. Lent. That line is a question, right? So that poem is actually a reflection on that season of the Christian calendar, of the church calendar, the Lent. So I think you're right in a sense, because it's like a question. You know, the speaker in the poem is questioning the tradition of, you know, having to do this like over and over again, looking at the substance rather than the ceremonial part of it, right? Some of the things that, you know, people do as ceremony and trying to weigh the substance. So you're doing this, you're doing this now for this season, and then so you can go back and continue what you're doing, so that because you know next year you're going to come back again and do the same thing. So it's looking at two things: one, substance; two, ceremony. Because a lot of things that are going on in the church or in the Christendom has become so ceremonial that, you know, it's beginning to lose substance, that some things don't become permanent. When you go through some sort of rite that you are expected to maintain, you know, that and go in that frequency and that mood and go on, or do you go back to your former frequency because you know you're going to come back? It's just like, you know, like I mentioned the drunk at the confessional. So you do this, you confess, and then you go do whatever you want because you know, oh, the priest is there, I'm going to come back and do it again, or I'm going to just pray and talk to God. And so yeah, it's looking at two things basically. I mentioned the two things, ceremony, right, and then the substance, you know. So it's substance and ceremony for me. So that's actually is a question that I think can also be answered in many ways. I don't think there's just one way to look at it, but it's basically an interrogation of, you know, of that season as people you know, choose to look at it.
Thank you. Anybody else with any questions? This is an open space. Don't be shy. Feel free to ask your question.
Okay, I had my hands up already. I guess maybe you didn't see it.
Sorry, I didn't see that. But go on.
Okay. Yes, please. So you know, back to HA again. I'm just trying to I was trying to think about, you know, the whole process for maybe a poet, for instance, or an author, as it were. You know, like, I mean, it's not our space. So I'm thinking, like, how does it work for you? Do you just scribble things down as they come to you, and then eventually you say, let me make this into a, you know, polish it up, tidy it up? You know, sometimes you get to have some manuscripts that you had kept for maybe 3, 4, 5 years and you didn't think you wanted to do anything with it. And then one day you just think, okay, let me put this together. And or do you just intentionally want to sit down to write a book or a poem or something? You know, like how does this work for you?
My writing is quite deliberate. It's very intentional. I decide, like now I'm working on a different set of works, but it's deliberate. I decide that this is what I want to do. You know, I have to, you know, set out to work on a set of maybe poems. I'm working on essays, and I'm going to be looking at this, and this. All right. But what I don't do is to like force it, to say I'm not. You know, there are people who are, you know, method writers. They wake up in the morning and they write. You know, it's like you're going to work. I don't do like that. You know, and I don't actually also wait for inspiration either. I'm like in between both. So when I see certain things and I feel there are certain situations that require poetic response immediately, that maybe you scribble some things or just take a note or just make a mental note to think about it and then, you know, express it in poetry, or some that would come out better as essay, you know, as an essay or a work of fiction, as a story, you know, as it were. So it depends. But what I do is that I write. I do, you know, longhand writing. I don't type my poems directly. I write. So sometimes I think about some of the things I want to write and then I start writing them. But what I've discovered is that sometimes you start from a point and then you think, this is exactly what I want this poem to be. But the poem at some point decides to tell you where you want to go, and then you have to go with it. Otherwise, it's going to sound forced. It won't flow. It's like you are inserting yourself in the poem. You understand what I mean? So what I think about, what I'm most deliberate about are some of the things I want to write, the themes. You know, I'm very deliberate about themes. When I was working on Waterman, I said I was going to, you know, deal with some sacred issues, some religious issues, you know, in addition to, you know, music and every other thing and some histories. But the process of bringing it, you know, to fruition, to make it happen, is what is fluid. I let it, you know, flow. I don't try to force it or to assert myself. So I write when I can. I don't have any specific schedule that I say I have to wake up and write. I have to do. No, I don't work like that. So when I write, because I'm working with that theme, thematic, link, in mind, it's easy to gather the work as a collection now. And of course, because I personally publish in magazines and journals, when I write, I send out to editors, different journals. Like in the collection, some of the poems in this collection have been published in different anthologies and journals, in their first form. So, but for me, it's a work in progress. I keep writing and submitting. And when it's time to collect, I know that it's time to collect. Then we'll put them together and then see how each poem flows into the next and how they connect. Because I see a poetry collection as an album. It's music. There has to be some sort of clarity and cohesion. It has to flow. So yeah. So I write all these poems individually, and then at some point they have to come together to form a whole.
As a follow-up to William's question, for Waterman, how many years or months did it take to put everything together, if you were to throw a number?
You mean for this one?
Yes.
Yeah, for Waterman, I think it took me about 1 year and 6 months. Thereabout about 1 year and 6 months. I started working on it from late 2018. And then till early this year, because I have some of the poems. One of the poems in collection was published in January this year. In fact, I have some that were published in the spring. So yes, it took less than 2 years, 1 year and a couple of months that it took me to write. So, but I spaced it out, and I just took my time to think, give a thought, think about some of the poems, some of the themes, and how best they would come out and all of that. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I'm going to just ask you to speak on your publisher, because I think it's important that people are very conscious of who they're publishing their stories with. So why is it that you've chosen to publish 2 books with Griots Lounge?
Oh, I have a very fascinating, a very interesting history or relationship with Griots Lounge. Back in 2012 or early 2013, when they were based in Nigeria, and the Griots Lounge published a novel. I think it was Bonfires of the Gods. They were promoting at the time. They had a website. They had this blog. So at the time, I started to start writing seriously again. I had been published in one international magazine. I started to say, okay, I'm going to take this writing seriously. I'm going to start, writing again. So I sent one of my early poems at the time to Griots Lounge, to BB, and he looked at it and liked it. I said, "Oh, this is great! I'm going to publish it." And then he put it up on the blog. And when I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, wow, this is interesting." So we had this sort of, we started this sort of relation. But then at the time, I was writing reviews of, literature, maybe fiction, the novels, and all of that. So I reviewed the book published by Griots Lounge, Bonfires of the Gods, at the time. And then, but after some time, it was like, they went on a hiatus, it was but we had already started a relationship by the time. So in 2018, I found out that they had come back again. And so I submitted my manuscript, and it was accepted. So because of the trust and the relationship we had built in the past, and the mode of work and the transparency and how they've taken their work seriously, and I thought to give that platform a chance to get my work into, to see how it works, and it's been quite amazing. It's for me, it's one of the best publishing houses coming up, doing amazing things, and they've got a lineup of titles, they've published now already, and that are forthcoming. So I would say that I've come a long way personally with Griots Lounge, starting from when they did their first publication, and it's been an interesting journey.
Awesome, thank you. We have one question from Uchenna Emelife. Uchenna says, do you have a favorite poem or poems in the collection, so we look out for it when we finally get our copy?
Favorite poems. I love most of the poems in the collection. Sometimes it's difficult to choose which one is favorite. Yeah, I would say have an open mind. Have an open mind when book, read everything. I have some favorites, but I'd rather not say which ones. Yeah, I'd rather not say which ones. But if I have to ask you to read one poem in the collection, I would ask a reader to make sure, even if you don't read poetry, you have to read Transition in Waterman. Yeah, but there are lots and lots and lots of them. I like all of them in equal measure. Otherwise, I wouldn't have them in the collection anyways.
And what page is Transition on?
Transition actually is the poem that begins the third part of the collection. So Transition is on page 57. And it's 10 pages long because it's 10 verses. Each verse is on one page. So yeah, I think it's the longest poem in the collection anyways. Yes.
So there's a question by Jide. Jide, we can take your question now.
Okay.
Can you please take yourself off mute? Oh, quick follow-up from Uchenna Emelife, who asked the previous question about your favorite poem. Uchenna said, I've read Transition and loved it. So Uchenna does share.
He has.
Share. Yes.
Uche knows a lot about my work.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, Jide, can you please ask your question? Oh, I think it's frozen.
Okay. What question is? I've read your first collection and I've seen this one, and your poems reference to a lot of spirituality, and I'm wondering, where does that come from?
Okay, maybe it comes from association or from my own, will I say, my own inclination, because I like to think that I'm a spiritual person. I meditate and think a lot about spiritual matters, and I'm actively involved, in church as a Christian myself, being a musician who also performs, plays in church or ministers in church. So I have, from childhood, I think it's, being spiritual in a sense has been part of my upbringing, has been, it takes a huge percentage of, my life as a whole. So it's not something that can be taken away from me, so it forms part of my being, my essence. So I tend to also look at spiritual matters, to address them, or to sometimes my poems make allusion or reference to some of this. And then, I mean, it's not new, because in my first book, in Chrysanthemums for Why That Ghost, there are references to certain religious or sacred stories or narratives as well. So yes, I would say it's because it has become a huge part of me, and I also tend to look at life through that lens, the spiritual lens. So yeah.
Thank you Jide, for your question.
Yes, please, can I say something? Uche is still online, right? Uchenna, that asked the question. I would like to say that.
I'm not sure if the person is still here. 1 second. Yeah, the person is still here.
Yeah, okay, he's online. So this is an appreciation comment. Uchenna is my publicist, and he works very hard. Very brilliant young man that is doing an amazing work. And I'd just like to say that I'm grateful for the work that he's doing, and I appreciate his work. So thank you very much, Uche. Yeah.
Okay. Adobe has a question. Adobe, can you please come on?
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Oh, hello.
Well done. Nice work. Nice work. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I have a question. I would like to know if you'll be having a live video more often like this going forward, you know, for some viewers to be able to know more about the book.
Yes. That's actually, we're thinking about that, and that's going to happen. I mean, in addition to other readings I'll have, because I think the next one is on the 18th of November, where it'll be hosted online by the Ocean City Library here in New Jersey. But on our own, I think with our publisher, Griots Lounge will make an arrangement to make that happen. That, you know, once in a while, maybe once in 2 months, you know, we're gonna have live streaming where I read and discuss my poetry, and, you know, have people ask more questions and all of that. So yeah, that's I think that's under consideration, and I think it's a very good idea. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for that. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll consider that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your support.
Okay.
Well, I hope BB's taking notes, because these are very, very important suggestions. And
she's my wife.
conversation...
She's my wife. She's so...
Oh.
Yes,
I think William has a question too.
Yeah, and she's a very strong, you know, very huge, you know, support system. You know what we're doing at Griots Lounge. So for which we are grateful.
William, did you have a question?
Yes, please, I did. So when Mitchell was responding to my previous question, he said this time he made up his mind that he was going to touch on sacred issues and all that. So I'm thinking, at some point, are you concerned with the scope of audience that you would be either attracting or probably chasing away because of some of the contents of? So for instance, okay, I know a couple of people who are not fans of, if I use the word history, especially about some topics, because of the memories, and a lot of times because they don't want to, anything that probably breeds hate or make you begin to see some people in a certain kind of way, they want to stay away from those discussions, absolutely, so they don't, you know, get any form of bias. So I mean, I mean, you were brave of, I'll use the word, to try to go into these details, but did you have any concerns? You know, were you skeptical about the topic? Like, is this going to affect, you know, how far or how wide that this book is going to go? I would want this book to go, as it were. You know, do you normally have concerns when you want to touch on topics like this?
Okay, yeah. First of all, I would say that when I write, I mean poetry and fiction, I don't worry so much about audience reception or how anybody's going to see it, or whether it's going to get readership or you know, things like that. I don't burden myself with such concerns, because I believe primarily, and rightly so, that a good writing will find its audience, the right audience. If I'm writing inspirational book or some sort of non-fiction to motivate people, maybe I might be worried about people who read it, or other concerns like that. But this is poetry, and poetry has an obligation, you know, to maintain truth. It bears the burden of truth itself. So without worrying about who's going to get offended, or who might be reminded of things in the past, or who, in fact, the actual role of poetry is to stir up the dust, you know, to shake the waters where everything is calm like this. Poetry should come in and turn everything. That is the idea, in a sense. So I'm not, when I write, I don't think, oh, maybe these people are going to get offended, because then that is self-censorship. When I start thinking that way, I'm already putting in around. In fact, we'll get to a point that I won't write anymore. The art of writing is actually an art of freedom. If you have to sit down to pick your pen and write about anything, and you're not thinking about freedom, then the problem starts there, because then you're censoring yourself a lot. You will get to a point where you can't not write. You are not going to write about anything, because now you're burdened, you're worried. How far is this going to go? What is this going to do? Oh, people are not going to like this. If we get to that point, then we're not going to write or produce. But we have to do that. Personally, on my own, I'm speaking for myself. I have to do that. If people are not going to like it, I'll write it more, so that they will not like it. The people that will like it will come, right? If my writing does not shake up anything, or remind somebody of anything, or cause trouble somehow, then maybe I should stop writing. I want to cause trouble. You know, basically, I'm not bothered about who read it. In fact, I want somebody to read it and get angry and call me out and say that I'm crazy and all of that. I will accept it and write more. You know, that is the idea of writing. You know, we need to, if I'm going to write poetry and it's not going to shake up anything, then I probably need to stop writing. I'm not a motivational writer. I'm not an inspirational. I don't write a book to motivate people or tell them how to make money or stuff like that. This is poetry, and the burden is truth and to shake things up. So if I can't get people to think or react, then there's a problem. That's the way I look at it. Yeah.
Very well, very well. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I guess you'll be dropping a couple of lines for us for NSAS.
Yes. We are part of the protest. I am in the protest. I'm part of the online protesters. We're shaking things up online because I'm not on the ground in Nigeria to come out the streets and join the protest. Even here, where I am in New Jersey, I wrote my own cardboard paper. I went out to protest on the road and took pictures. Only me. I did my own solo protest. But I'm basically an online protester. I'm on Twitter, retweeting, writing, doing everything, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. So we're on course. We are pushing it. You know, we're pushing it. So I'm part of it. And also, like we also said, poetry is also can be an effective, effective platform, to amplify some of these things to talk about. Even if people don't respond to it at the time, it will be there as a historical treasure. Or at some point, it can stir people up, or after some time to look back and say, oh, this happened, or this and this and this, So I think it's all important. It's all important. Yeah, but I'm part of the protest where once we're done with this event, we're going back to the field.
The online stream.
NSAS.
Very well.
And police brutality in Nigeria. We are on course.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Keep it up.
Thank you, sir.
All right then.
Yes.
Just a follow-up comment to what you said in response to William. I think, yes, causing trouble is very important. If you don't create disruption, you never create change.
Well, what's the point of writing? Disruption.
Yes.
You're writing to disrupt, to shake things up. If people are sleeping, the writing should wake them up. We shouldn't be bothered about, oh, this person is going to get offended. Let the person get offended. That's the point. If people don't get offended, what's the point of writing? We need to shake things up. That's the point. To shake it up, like we say in lingo, in a popular balance, we say break the table or shake the table.
Yes, shatter the table.
We need to shatter it, break the whole thing, remove the legs.
And I would also like to add that we have a whole lot of authors with Griots Lounge shaking things up.
Yes, we need to shake things up.
Right, so Eche is a huge activist. And then we have Romeo, who is also shaking things up with the LGBT, and we have Onyeka, so we have a whole lot of authors shaking things up. Actually, it's very important because writing should be able to cause some form of change, right? So you should be able to have a reaction from your works. So because you're not writing, you're not Usher. Even Usher kind of writes his romantic lyrics.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to add that. So
yeah, that's
and
right.
Yes, you also mentioned freedom, and in reading the first piece in the book, The Child, I also thought of freedom, and the freedom to just be childlike and just be free, no worries. You're still sort of, I also think of naivety too, because as a child you don't really know a lot of things, so people could also consider you naive towards certain things. But the most important thing to be childlike is to be free, as you said, freedom. So I thought it was very important that you said freedom, as that opens the book and sets the tone for the book.
Yes, freedom, and like you rightly mentioned, naivety or innocence, from a place of innocence, tabula rasa, like they say, clean slate, nothing written on it yet. So you everything, you don't have burdens about, things pushing you in this side and all of that. You're just open and free and expressing yourself. So it's good to start on a note of freedom, that is what the fight and the struggle is about, freedom. We need to break all the chains. If people are put us on a chain for too long and they are sitting down, they'll be sitting on their heads, it's time to tell them to get up. you know, you need to get up now. Your time is up. You're not sitting down. So that freedom is important, and freedom is not sometimes it's not. Not sometimes, it depends, but it's not always given. Nobody gives you. You have to take it. You know, you have to take it, and sometimes it is taking it by force, because if you're going to appeal to the conscience of the person holding you captive, it's not going to work, because if the person understands that they are wrong, or if the person has that moral conscience, they're not going to hold you down in the first place, right? So we need to speak to people in the language they understand to get back together. So freedom is important in every way. And so like I was saying now, you don't get it without shaking things up, which is what writing does essentially. So, you know, writing shakes up things, and that way people, you know, get to do what they have to do to be free.
And also supporting what Eche just said now, like I was having a conversation with Oyinda, I think like almost a month now, about diversifying the literature of North America, for instance, getting African writing and the young people into the business of publishing. All right, so it's kind of causing a little bit of change. All right, so, and if we do not have works that speak for the people and to the people, I actually don't think we're going to achieve that. So kudos to you, HA, for trying to send messages across through your works. And yeah, I'm always excited anytime you tell me that you have a new work and you'd like me to look at it. It's almost as if I'm not even going to. It's almost as if I'm not even going to read it before I accept. So, so, yeah, like also trying to draw back from history. Actually, it was Jide that told me about HA. Like, there's this guy that submitted a poem. Like, I think that guy is solid, though. Like,
oh, really?
So,
Was that what happened?
So that was when we now read your poem. That was in 2012, and then went out of the scene and then came back. So HA
and came back. Yes.
I think William has his hand up also. Yeah.
All right.
No. Sorry, I was supposed to have dropped it earlier on. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Please, everyone, as always, even if we've had a launch, it's very important that you're supporting HA and Griots Lounge by buying the book. So it's very important. Links to buy the book from Amazon has been dropped in the chat, so please check it out. If you're in Canada, you can buy it from McNally Robinson Booksellers in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And is it also available on Amazon Canada?
Yes, you know, it's available on Amazon worldwide. So if you are in Italy, for example, it's amazon.it. If you are in the United States, it's amazon.com. If you're in Spain, amazon.es. If you are in the UK, it's amazon.co.uk. So it's on Amazon. It's a global thing on Amazon. It's also on Barnes and Noble. And if you are in Canada, not only in Manitoba, you can also get it from McNally Robinson Booksellers. It's online. There is also a McNally online portal, which I will drop, or I'll also drop on the chat here, so we can. So it's a very wonderful book. All right. So we also ask for feedbacks, ask for reviews once you're done reading Waterman. In Nigeria, it's on pre-order. All right, so I also dropped the pre-order link. If you pre-order through Page Bookstore, you will definitely get your copy by the end of October or the most first week of November. All right, so there's a link there. Click on the link. We are in the jet age, just like we were saying. We have an older generation fighting an analog war, and we are fighting them back digitally. So that's why they are finding it difficult. So, so you can get it online. They
don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, they don't understand. They don't know Twitter. So you can get it online from Page Bookstore through the link on the chat, and definitely you're going to have your copy in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
I know nobody has their book with them right now, but I'd like to point out on the book cover, if you can see, there's red and black, and our author also happens to be wearing red and black today. So I wonder if that was on purpose or it just happened. The spirit was just leading you to wear red and black.
Yeah, black has been the color for a couple of days now. We are protesting, so in a way I'm protesting even now that we're having the book launch. So yeah, it could be a coincidence, but I'm very conscious of the protests going on in Nigeria at the moment, and wearing black and then having this red is also part of it, lending my voice to the protest. Like I said earlier, well, once we're done with this event, we're going back to NSAS, #NSAS.
NSAS, NSWAT, and everything.
Yes, and
bring accountability.
Yes, we need accountability. In fact, we're turning up the whole system, so everything is changing now, and we're very happy to see that.
Yeah.
So, Jide, you have a question?
Not a question. I was just thumbing my fist for that answer.
Jide is in support of the activism, so we're all in this together.
Awesome. I'd like to take one last question if anyone has any question or comments to make before we hand it over back to BD. Question, comments? I have a question, but I've spoken too much, so I want to give the stage to someone else who might have a question. Nobody? Okay, well, I'm going to ask my question, and it's from the piece Prescriptions. And Prescriptions is from page 71 to 73, and it's in 3 parts. It's in the it's in part 3, but there's 3 different parts to Prescriptions. And it seemed to me the first part talked about power and having power, and then in the second part, it seems the speaker sort of relinquished their power and acknowledged that they were an oppressed person. And then it seemed in the third part, the person was accepting death, like to die. So I wanted to expand on Prescriptions.
Okay, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, prescription is, to me, is like documenting history, and it's also a protest form in a sense, because prescription, I took it directly from the words they use, the prescribing IPOB. There's a group called IPO, the indigenous people of Biafra, just a group of people who are agitating and calling for secession, but the Nigerian government prescribed the group and tagged them a terrorist group and ended the activities, So what the poem does is to discuss and narrate what's been going on. The last part is not necessarily like accepting death or defeat, but it's more like saying that all the tactics being used by the government is not going to work, that things are going to go on regardless. Like I mentioned earlier, when we were starting out, that it is not something that can be killed, like, maybe a human being that you just kill and then, or maybe something that you kill and then it dies. It's an idea that has passed from generation to generation. So it's not something you just kill and then it goes up like that. So prescription is political and historical in a sense, because in the future, it's going to still reference what has happened, what has happened, truly happened at some point. So it is all part of the whole Biafra thing, agitation. But me, as a writer, I look at my work as not just to protest or agitate, but also to document. In a way, I'm just telling the story to document and put it the right way, to tell the truth the best way that I can, and to present the things that I see. So that is what it is, basically. So it's in 3 parts, it's 3 verses, stating the grievances of the speaker and saying this is what happened, and it, and more like a conclusive manner. It's not going to just end like that. People are not going to give up, regardless of oppression.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been such a really impactful and powerful response we've been getting from you. The conversation has been very, very impactful and very, very interesting points that have been made. And you really pushed on the points and the importance of writing as activism, writing as history, writing to share knowledge, and writing to preserve knowledge too. So thank you so much for this book. It's so small, but it is so packed and so heavy, and there's just so many things. And it's like every time you read it, you just find something different. So thank you so much, HA, for this conversation. And everyone, please follow HA at sorry, I keep butchering your name. But Echezonachukwu Nduka everywhere. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and he always has very interesting points. You can also send HA a private message if you want to ask him any questions. But it has been an honor hosting this. My first time ever hosting a poetry reading. So thank you so much for your patience with me. And thank you for the honor to host Griots Lounge first ever book launch in Canada. Yay. So everyone, please don't forget to buy the book, Amazon, everywhere. I see William has a question. So we're going to take William before I hand over back to BB.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, sorry. I think I almost missed the spot. So I was going to ask, when the publisher mentioned that for Nigeria for now, it's just a pre-order. So I was now thinking, do you have like the ebooks, the Kindle versions, or something like that, you know, available, or maybe in plans, you know, to reach? I mean, it's already on Amazon, but I don't know. Maybe if that's part of a plan, I don't know.
All right. So yeah, I actually wanted Jide to take it. So what we usually do, we usually have like a laid out structure or plans on how we take up like a promotion of a title. All right. So first of all, we have our contacts with two ebook platforms, the popular Okada Books and also BAM Books. All right, so we have those platforms already processing the ebook release of Waterman, and most likely, Jide, you're handling that. It should be able to come out in a week. So. Okay, I think okay, we lost. Okay, she's back.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. Was Jide going to say something?
I think Jide, yeah.
Hello. Okay,
Yes,
Bibi has
we can hear you.
said much of it. The point is, like he was saying, we have a format, and ideally we've started the match now with the launch in Canada. The book will be available within the month. So, and then we are making every effort to make sure that before the 31st of October, it will be at least available on BAM Books. And then, you know, subsequently, people can still be able to download it from the other platform which we work with, which is Okada Books. So that's it for now.
Okay. Again, please don't forget to buy the book, because as much as HA loves seeing everyone's faces tonight, this afternoon, he also needs the monetary support. So let's buy the book and keep supporting HA and keep encouraging HA in doing this work, this critical work that he continues to do. So I'm going to hand over to BB now. And if you have any questions for me, you can reach out to me. My name is Oyindamola Alaka everywhere on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much,
Thank you, Oye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Oyinda. You've done like marvelously well.
Thank you
like,
so much.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if you want to know more about HA we're having a reading in New Jersey, but it will still be on Zoom. It will still be a virtual reading. So we'll share the link on our social media platforms, which is Griots Lounge everywhere. Griots Lounge Twitter, Griots Lounge Instagram,
And we on board everywhere.
on Facebook as well. So on LinkedIn as well. So you'll be able to get more information. Please follow us, right? So we can let you know about more about Waterman and the journey as we promote an outstanding work from Echezonachukwu Nduka. And all right, so trying to close today, I would like to appreciate everyone, those that joined us on Zoom and those that joined on Facebook. I've been seeing some form of support and kudos from a whole lot of people. It's quite encouraging, especially for a young imprint that is trying to spread the net across the globe. It may look like a dream bigger than us, but as young people, and especially from the largest Black community in the world, we are trying to make a difference. I know most of us, we've heard the great news about Paystack and what the young people there have been able to do. We use Paystack at Griots Lounge, so I'm so happy. I was so happy when we got the email from Shola and his team. So as young people, we are trying our best to make a difference, to create a new narrative about African youth. So your support counts a lot. So as you buy Echezonachukwu Waterman, you are also supporting Griots Lounge and every activity that we do. So on our pages, you will also get to find out about the upcoming books, upcoming titles, Echezonachukwu's journey, his itinerary. You will also be able to find out there. So we'll also share Eche's website if you want to find out more about him. So thank you so much. Thank you to McNally Robinson, booksellers here in Winnipeg, for taking it personal. All right, and also supporting an unknown imprint that is just a couple of months old in Canada, and every other bookshop or distributor that has gotten involved, and festivals and individuals that have also called in to support. So Inda, I am so grateful for your involvement, and we as Griots Lounge and NOAA professionals will make sure we work together going forward. Thank you, William. You also made the night so bright, or the evening so bright in Nigeria, but here is still afternoon in North America. All right, and for the guys that have already gone, thank you so much. I'll try to get the recording, like the recorded version of the meeting. I will try to see what I can do about it.
Yeah, since you're streaming to Facebook and
yeah, okay, it's true. Yeah, you're right. You're correct. Yeah, it will automatically save up. Yeah. Jide, do you have anything to say? Jide has been wonderful in Nigeria, and Jide has been working on a new book that I would like him to talk about for one of our newest writers, and then we can close off for the day. Your mic is off, Jide. Okay.
Yeah, you can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So nice. I thank everybody. I am very, very pleased and very happy that we've done this, and just expect more of this coming in the months to come. We are working on a book that will be coming out within the next 6 weeks. An interesting book. It's called Culture, Gender, and Work. I can't, delay us to go get a copy of it now, but just expect some really great things happening in the next few weeks. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who has really trusted us and shown so much confidence in what we do. We are really dreamers, like Binyam will always remind me. So, but with your help and with the kind of support and love you guys are showing, I believe that our dreams are going to come true very soon. And it is just simply, like I said, to make sure that we have our own we have our own narrative ourselves, and can keep building up what we believe is right for our own society. So thank you, and thanks everybody for supporting us, buying all our books, talking about everything we do, and may your own works be blessed too.
Oh, Bibi, you're muted.
All right. So thank you so much, guys, for joining in today. For some that I see trying to come in, it's over for today, but I'm sure it's not over yet. So we still have opportunities, and we will. Please follow us on social media: Griots Lounge, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. You will definitely know when next we are having an event, and it's quite soon. So thank you so much for blessing the day, and do have a very beautiful day. Bye.
Can I share a word of appreciation?
Yeah,
Please,
please go ahead.
Yeah, please. I'd like to thank everyone that has come out to support us. Thank you. Thank you. I do not take your presence for granted. Thank you for finding time to join us for this global launch. I want to thank our wonderful host, Oyindamola. You've done an amazing job. Thank you so much. I want to thank my publishers. I want to thank Bibi for doing such an amazing job. I want to thank Jide, holding the front in Nigeria. I'm very grateful for the firm support that I've received from Griots Lounge and continue to receive. It's been amazing over the years, and I do not take that for granted. I'm very grateful for the support and for the launch of this book. Thank you, everyone, my publishers, the people that have come out to support us, our host for today, and of course my publicist, and other people that have come to support us. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, so thank you, guys. We're done for the day, and we'll see you next time we're having any event. So I'll just stay behind, and Oyinda, you can also stay behind so we can do some housekeeping.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you,
Daichi as well. All right, bye, guys. And Jide,
All right, then.
It should stay behind.
Thank you.
Jide,
All
stay
right.
behind. Jide, stay behind.
But you have to go off.
You're still streaming off. Oh, you have to stop recording too.
Yeah, I've stopped streaming on Facebook.
Oh, you're still recording.
Oh, true. Let me stop.
So when